Hello and welcome to the Gray Area Podcast. I'm Bobbi.
And I'm Kay.
And today we are taking a little bit of a detour than what we've done in the past two episodes, and we're talking about a documentary.
Yes, actually we're returning to the days of old.
The days of old before everything went to Hades.
Yes. To hell in a handbasket.
To hell in a handbasket.
Yes.
So we're talking about the Kevin Hart documentary that recently premiered on Netflix, and it's called Don't F This Up.
Yes.
Kevin Hart, Don't F This Up. So we're gonna dive right in.
Yes, because I've been waiting for this one.
Yes. So, Mom, would you like to begin with your sense? We're gonna go episode by episode,
Yes.
to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
And
The first episode was called
24
Kev.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we even get into that, I'm going to tell you, when I turned it on and I started watching the first episode, I wrote one word and I put brilliant. Mm-hmm. And I put brilliant for a few different reasons. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's brilliant because Kevin always knows how to spin everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
You know, when he's in a mess, he knows how to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And you know, was he being genuine? I think there were moments where he was being genuine. But I just put brilliant because he does it to me better than most. And I also wrote, you can't kill him with his own shit. He puts it out before anybody else can.
Yeah.
You know, and markets it and makes money off of it. And what can you really say except for critique what he put out?
That's true.
And then it dies down and he moves on to something else. So I did write brilliant.
I wrote defensive off the bat.
Ooh.
Because one of the opening scenes of the first episode is him. They start to address the whole, and I know it was more of like a foreshadowing thing.
Yeah.
But they start to address the whole Oscars thing with his tweets, and he's like, "There's just a lot that you don't know." And I think for me,
that was dramatic.
It was dramatic, and it's like for me, it was just rude, and so I was like, even if you may be in the right, there are ways to do it, and that gets into basically the very last episode is what that whole thing comes to a head. But yeah.
Well, I do agree with you on that to a certain degree. That was the draw because you want to know, why did he tell the interviewer to stop and hold it? You know, like he was very dramatic about it. Very. I said, okay, Kevin, you know, come on.
Like this
it's not that serious.
It's really not.
So, okay, 24 Kev gets into his work ethic. Mm-hmm. Kevin works
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
I mean, he works nonstop. He kind of reminds me of like Will Smith back in the day. Mm-hmm. You know how every time you looked up, Will Smith was putting out a movie. He was doing something. Yeah. He was always on the go. And that's kind of how Kevin is. You know, I wrote down, you know, he has his Laugh Out Loud network. He has endorsements. He was shooting Jumanji and The Secret Life of Pets. He had a comedy tour that, you know, was over 4 continents.
Yeah, worldwide.
Like it was too much. Then he was, you know, pitching, you know, an idea about Uptown Saturday Night. You know, he wanted Chadwick Boseman to be in it. So it was just a lot. I got tired just hearing everything.
Because the way that I think that they cut it lends you to be tired because he's hopping from one thing to this next thing, to this next thing, to this next thing. And it's like, oh my gosh. Like,
and I know some of it is editing, but I'm pretty sure that's how he works.
No, he's legitimately busy. I'm not denying that. But I think the editing, and also I do think that is the first point that this documentary really tries to make you sympathize with Kevin because
he works so hard.
You're like, oh man, he works a lot, and so yeah, you know,
like he's out of his mind about stuff. You
can have like a lapse in judgment if you're that busy.
Yeah,
that was point number one.
I can see that.
There's many other times where the documentary very hard just tried to pivot to like Kevin being like what he did wasn't so bad. But one of the things that really got me, first of all, I need comedians to stop being preachy, because Kevin is super duper preachy.
What do you mean?
He's just very, like, the whole, I think even the name of the episode, the 24 Kevin, like, he's working all the time, and like, like, you don't ever stop, like, I came from nothing, and here it's like, I need people in general, stop being so dang on preachy.
You know what? I think that's definitely an age thing, because the younger people say that, and Kevin is in his 40s.
Yeah,
and so you could say
it reminds
people that are 40 and up are a little preachy.
It reminds me of Steve Harvey, how preachy he is.
And it's like, Steve's on a whole nother level.
He's not. I mean, Kevin and Steve are in two different places as far as their preachiness goes.
Yeah.
But it was just certain points where I'm like, I'm not trying to be motivated to work out watching this documentary. Right. I'm not trying to be motivated to start 17,000 companies. I just want to know what happened.
What happened?
Quit talking about what I should be doing, Kevin. Jeez.
Well, one thing I can say is that I did write down that Kevin came from very humble beginnings. Mm-hmm. He grew up with his mom. His dad got strung out on drugs, was into street life, and so it was his mom. I noticed he really focused on him and his mom, and I was just like, well, wait a minute, he has a brother. And then he eventually said, his brother, it was him and his mom and his brother.
And I got a little bit confused, because didn't he say his brother's name was Calvin? And then they do show another brother in the second episode.
That's his brother. He only has one brother.
But his little title card said Robert Hart, not Calvin. So that's why I was confused. I was
maybe he calls him that for short.
Maybe his first name is Robert, and then they call him Calvin or something. But I was like, I remembered it because it was Calvin and Kevin. But then when they showed his title card, it said Robert. So I was like,
I didn't notice that.
Maybe that's because it was happening when they were in that room.
Yeah. So
I was like, is that maybe his
That's
dad
his real brother.
had another kid?
That's his brother.
Brother. But because I was like, they look alike.
Yeah, that's his brother.
So I don't. Maybe that was I don't think. Maybe I don't know.
Well, I put humble beginnings equals overachiever.
Yeah.
Kevin's mom was very smart, and she reminds me of a lot of, Black women. Mm-hmm. Having to work your fingers to the bone just to protect your family, and just to make sure your family has everything that they need. Like, she constantly was working, and she was very strict. Yeah. She was lenient with the older brother. Mm-hmm. She was lenient with him. He got into some trouble early on, had to go away to juvie or jail or something like that.
She got him emancipated. So she cut the cord. She said,
but didn't he go? Didn't he get into some trouble though before?
He got into some trouble, but it was, Kevin said the turning point was when his brother tried to steal this old lady's purse.
Yeah.
And then that's when his mom took him to trial and got him emancipated.
Right.
It was just them.
And I did write that down, because to be emancipated back then, that was unheard of.
Yeah.
But she had to do what she had to do. So then everything pretty much fell to Kevin. Kevin was always a jokester. You saw him dancing and, and cracking jokes with the video camera, but she wanted him to go to school.
Yeah.
Go to college. She worked for University of Pennsylvania.
Apparently she was a professor.
She was a professor.
Yeah.
He could have gotten in.
Yeah. And he didn't.
He didn't. Do that. It worked out for him, but the average person should have went on to UPenn.
I think even if you wanted to do comedy, you would have gone there. Just
Absolutely.
In case.
Yeah.
Just as a backup. But anyways. And I think we're about, this is like a tale of our two notes, but it was just certain things that I was watching. I was like, why does this keep happening? So all these phone calls, I was like, if you are doing your confessional part of the documentary where you're talking about your story, why do you keep having all these phone calls? And then the one with Chadwick Boseman, I was like, that seems staged.
Yeah, I think they really wanted to hone in on the fact that Kevin works nonstop.
Yeah.
I also made a note that his mom would turn duct tape upside down to catch the roaches in their house. So you got to think about it. When you come from that, when you come from watching this woman get up every single day without fail, do what she needs to do. She made sure he had no downtime. Like, every minute of his day was accounted for.
Yeah.
You're going to pull something great from that, but you're also going to pull some things that are not so great from that.
Yeah.
Definitely he got his work ethic from his mom. Definitely he did. But also when a child is sheltered, they're going to act out in another type of way.
Yeah.
But I also would say when you're that poor and, you're living in a, 1-bedroom apartment, you got roaches or whatever like that, you never want to go back to that.
No.
Yeah. Never want to go back to that. I remember watching a documentary with Flip Wilson, who, are you familiar with Flip Wilson? He's a comedian from back in the day. That was one of the things that he said he would never, ever, ever be poor again. And a lot of people have the same sentiment. So we get to see why he is 24 Kev.
Yeah. So that moves on to the second episode, which focuses a lot on his dad.
Yeah.
And his relationship with his dad, and how when he was younger, his dad was high all the time, and it turned into some of his funniest jokes that were in some of his earliest specials. But you get to see just how much Kevin not having his dad in his life when he was younger really affected him.
Yeah.
And his dad is in his life now, but it's a different dynamic. You could tell it was a little bit not static, but just a little awkward at times. Because you're having to create a relationship now as you're
trying to microwave a relationship, and it doesn't work. He was just like, you can be related to somebody and you can love them, but you can't force a bond with them.
Yeah.
One of the things that I saw was that Kevin wanted to go and stay with his dad. He got tired of his mom's rules and all of that. He thought the grass was greener
on the other side.
But he gets to his dad's house, and then he sees his cousins
that he's never
met some children his dad had that he doesn't even really know. It's a house full of people, and he realizes that wasn't where he wanted to be.
Exactly. And also in this episode, they go a lot into I guess how he met Eniko and how their relationship got started. But an interesting thing that he said was with his first marriage to Tori was that he didn't know the definition of marriage, and I wrote, didn't he cheat? So it's like, so you didn't know the definition of marriage.
He was young, though. I will say that your first marriage, especially when you and not indefinitely, I'm not taking up for him in his cheating ways.
Yeah.
But I will say that when you get married very, very, very young, like you have no clue what you're stepping into.
That's true.
You don't. You just know, oh, I love this person. I want to be with him every day. And believe me, your 17-year-old self, your 18-year-old self ain't gonna be the same at 40.
Very true.
You're gonna be singing a different tune. Like, okay, so why did I do this again?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
I think they also, this is the second point when they try to not twist, but they are very methodical with how they show how Eniko and Kevin got together. And they even have her address, like, people like him and Eniko both were saying, like, they were calling Eniko a home wrecker and everything like that. And I was like, I think this is another case of the marriage being over, but it was one-sided type of thing. So he was saying that by the time he met Eniko, his marriage was over. He was done, and he corrects himself and says, "We were done."
Yeah. Well, I think this is kind of it's kind of like what we talked about before. And by the way, this series or this particular part was called "Don't Be a Bitch."
Yeah,
and that was because his dad would always say, "Don't be a bitch." Like everything,
Yeah, and everything you do, don't be a bitch.
Don't be a bitch.
Exactly.
But I will say with Eniko, it's kind of like, okay, he and Tori were probably separated. He said they were living in two different homes. Their divorce probably was not finalized, but I believe when you both have somewhere different to live and you're not actively going to counseling or trying to get back together, then you're really done. So some people can look at it as, yeah, she was being a homework wrecker, but for me, it's like, no, I mean, it's over.
Yeah, and I don't see Eniko like that in that way. Just because the way that if she really wanted to be that home wrecker, I don't think that she would have been there for his kids like she has, and she seems like a genuine nice person.
Yeah, when the story first came out that he was dating Eniko, because Tori wasn't on that show, I can't remember what the name of the show was, but it was kind of like, it wasn't R&B Divas, but it was some show. I think it was on TV One or BET. Exes? It might have been Hollywood Exes, and she was on there. And the way that she was saying it happened, that Kevin very much was tipping out, and that he kind of got with her under unusual circumstance. So she kind of spent it to where you just like, okay, once you found out about it, Nico, you were like, oh, she wrong for that.
Yeah.
But one thing I will say is that I feel like this documentary did something good for Eniko, because before I didn't really know anything about her outside of her being a homewrecker.
Yeah, I think that's all anyone knew.
But watching this, the first thing that I wrote down regarding her was pretty, but Kevin doesn't respect her.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I wrote.
I think in all the scenes that they showed her in, she always had the little baby, and
which she wanted the baby.
She wanted the baby. He was like, "I have a boy and a girl. I'm good.
I'm good." And she's like, "No, I want my own baby." And I get it. She wants to start a family of her own.
Because I think she loves
and
Kevin's
she's young.
kid. Yeah, she's young, and the thing is, she loves Kevin's kids. But when you're with someone and you then take on the mantle of taking care of basically someone else's kids,
right?
You kind of want your own.
You kind of want your own, and I'm on the fence with that. If a man says he doesn't want kids, it's like, if he ends up saying that, okay, yes, we're gonna have a baby. If he ends up giving in, or you end up getting pregnant or whatever, if he said that he didn't want that baby, when the baby gets here, you can't really expect nothing more of him.
Yeah.
Now that the baby's here, because he's been saying that he didn't want the baby. That doesn't make it right or wrong, but that's the
reality of
that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
When she called him on the phone, he either called her or she called him, and like they were kind of going back and forth about time and everything. I'm just like, Kevin is in love with his career. That's his number one love.
And himself.
And himself. And I think her and the kids are kind of an afterthought. Yes, he grinds for them. Yes, he takes good care of them. But I think if you had to say, who is he in love with? He is in love with his career.
And I think that's evident. And I don't know, I think that this might be going into the third episode, but he always talks about, well, I have to do this. Like when they say, Dad, why aren't you home, more and everything? He's like, well, I have to do this to take care of it. It's like,
no, you want to do it.
No, you want to, because it's not like y'all are scraping by paycheck to paycheck. You're well taken care of.
Yeah.
I think you can maybe not have your hands in as many projects as you are, and you could probably be home with your kids a lot more, but you're giving them the excuse of, I'm doing this for you. But I think as a kid, if your parent isn't there hearing, well, I'm not here because I'm doing this for you, eventually that's going to start to mess with you. Like, what is it about me that couldn't get him to come home enough?
I really think that it's a combination. I think it comes from your upbringing. I think it comes from your life experiences. because I can say that your dad is the same way. Mm-hmm. Your dad loves what he does.
I wrote that. I said, this reminds Kevin Hart and my father are very similar.
When I watched it, I said, this is Dale.
Yeah.
Because, and I know where we are, so I'm okay with the fact that he is his work is what drives him. That's what he loves, even though he says it's all in the name of family, and it may or may not be, but I know that is his first love, which in my case, making sure that my kids are good that's my first love or priority. So you just have to know your role. But I did write now that Kevin doesn't really respect Eniko. It's almost like just sit and be pretty and that's it. Because even in their conversations, he just let her talk.
He wasn't present, really.
He wasn't present. Yeah. He definitely was not present, and she would be talking to him and looking at him. Like, I didn't see her on her phone a lot. Like when they showed clips of her, she was engaged.
Yeah.
And so that reminded me of myself too. Like, sometimes just sitting there when you're talking to somebody that works a lot, this is what happens.
They never really
turn it off.
They don't have a work-life balance.
They don't.
Their work is their
life.
They
can't help it.
Yeah, they can't.
So
the last thing on this episode that I thought was interesting was it was towards the end, and Kevin says that a man wants his son to be a replica of himself. And he was saying that his dad wanted him to be a replica of him.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing was that they showed Kevin making a son, or his son willingly wanting to be there on the treadmill, and Kevin is turning up the treadmill, and they're working out together. And so I thought that was an interesting scene to show, because Kevin was trying to get away from being a replica of his dad, but Kevin is trying to make his son a replica of him, even if it's in a positive way of having him work out and be healthy,
but to a certain degree. Because one thing that I noticed, which happens to a lot of people, when you grow up in a strict household, when you become parents, sometimes if you were in a really strict household, either you're going to be even more strict or you're going to be more lax. And I see him being a little bit more lax with his kids. Like his son was staying up to clock nothing in the morning, watching TV or on his iPad or whatever, and then Eniko was just like, look, no, you need to get on him. Like he's in there asleep. Like you call him and wake him up, but he was putting it back on her to do. It doesn't seem like he kind of gets on his son like his mother got on him.
I think I agree, but I think it was during that one phone call, there was a lot about him that I was like, because he was saying have someone fix him something to eat. And, tell him to get up, and it's like, no, you can call your son.
But see, when you have money,
you can dole out.
You can dole out. Yeah,
that's all you have to do.
So he's not, even though he's trying to raise him to be like him, he's not going to be like him because he lives a life of privilege.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the third episode was what happened in Vegas, and this whole episode was centered around his arguably second infidelity with a woman in Vegas, and then it gets into the whole situation of like the media frenzy around it. Then they get a Nico side of it, and then they get Kevin's side and his circle side. So everybody's side is up front in this episode. The first thing I wrote about this episode is that Charlemagne is a cornball. Just because they showed a scene of Charlemagne from The Breakfast Club talking about when this whole thing came out initially. He texted Kevin something like, I got your back. And then his wife told him that if you come on air and defend Kevin Hart, that you're a fuckboy. And that's when I wrote Charlemagne as a cornball. Just,
I mean, Charlemagne does what Charlemagne does. I mean, he grew up under the tutelage of Wendy Williams. So, like, that shock jock shit, that's what he does. So, like, he's not even worth
the time.
The time.
But then it goes, they explain what happened in Vegas. And they talk about something that I didn't quite know.
But did they explain what happened in Vegas?
They did.
Or did they skirt around it?
Well, they said this thing happened in Vegas, and
a video popped up.
But they spent more time talking about how it was someone from his group that showed that's what apparently pissed me took the video.
That's what pissed me off.
And it was the whole extortion thing. And then I'm like, you cannot be more upset at the person who took the video than your married self
exactly
doing whatever happened in the video.
Right. If you don't give people nothing, they won't have nothing. This is when I said that Kevin knows how to spin a story. Mm-hmm. First of all, I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna give Eniko the respect of a full, piece of this, mm-hmm. to tell her story, to tell how she's feeling. She told a little bit,
and then
even she got on the bandwagon of how hurt he was that a friend set him up, and was trying to extort him for money, regarding the tape. And I'm just like, don't forget, he hurt you.
Yeah,
and he hurt you.
I think towards the end of the episode, he said the hurt that I doled out, to my wife, then I was also met with that same hurt because someone did this to me. I'm like, no,
I don't feel sorry. I don't feel sorry that you extorted. I mean, the fact that you got $10 million to be extorted with, like, you need to feel sorry for me because I ain't got it. Okay,
if I was extorted, then I'd be upset.
Exactly. So, like, no,
I couldn't feel sorry for him in that moment, and I wrote down, this is also the time where they introduce his circle. That he has himself surrounded by, the plastic cup boys. And I wrote down, does his circle hold him accountable? Because it is a ton of people that he put on in some way or another. So when you put people on, their first instinct is not going to be to hold you accountable. It's going to be, what can I do to keep this person that gave me this shot or this opportunity or this job,
keep him going,
happy.
Okay, so let me scroll back up because I wrote some things that I forgot to say. Mm-hmm. When we're talking about Kevin's dad, and this rolls over into the situation with Vegas. Mm-hmm. Kevin, as he talked about his dad, have you ever seen somebody that is trying to play it off, but they're really angry inside?
Yes.
He kept saying that he wasn't angry with his dad. He had no ill will towards that. And I'm like, Kevin, it's okay to be angry with your dad. Upset. Your dad was not there. He was on drugs. It's okay. But he was just like, no, I'm fine. He was doing that too much. But that anger, mm-hmm. turns into passive aggressiveness. Mm-hmm. It turns into, I can do anything that I want to do. I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. It turns into this mean person underneath all that laughter.
Yeah. Just mean and hateful.
And that's what I wrote. And another thing that I wrote is that Eniko loves his kids.
She loves his kids.
I saw love from her with his kids. I didn't know I was going to see that, mm-hmm. within this documentary.
I thought that it would be like Kevin obviously loves his kids, and then Eniko was just there. Like, she loves her kid that she has with him. But
Eniko loved them kids, and she with them kids more than Kevin is.
Those are her kids.
Like, she doesn't look at it like, and I'm sure in the beginning it probably was odd, but now it just seems like she has a really good bond with them. Mm-hmm. But that the little boy, he seems like he's in his own world. Torre's son. Yeah. But that girl. Yeah. I can't remember her name.
I think Heaven.
First of all, is it Heaven?
Heavenly.
First of all, she's gorgeous. She is
her voice,
absolutely.
Like, as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh. She's so much older now.
She's mature.
Yeah.
She's so pretty, but she loves her daddy.
She loves him so
much. Did you see her just sitting and watching him?
When they were talking about kids.
Yes. Like, he's got to be more aware, mm-hmm. that, okay, he pays attention to that son. Yeah. To Torre's son. Yeah. He pays attention, and I'm sure as Zoe gets older, he's gonna pay attention. But he pay attention to that son. But I'm asking myself, are you watching that little girl who's watching you? Because she watching you in a way
that you don't even
notice.
And the thing is, she's think they said she's like 13 or 14.
She's so mature too.
Those are the years where you may not know it, but you are reaching out for your parents a lot because you're getting hit with a ton.
You understand that.
I'm a little bit closer to 14 than you are, seasoned saint.
Well, I'm just saying. I was saying that you could understand that because you've been there.
Oh yeah, at that age, you don't want to let on that you really care about your parents.
There were times at that age that I wasn't there for you.
Yeah.
And you needed me to be.
That's the moment when you're not quite a kid, so you're not like, oh, I'm always under my parents, but you're not quite old enough to where you're ready to be on your own yet. You're in that weird in between stage where you're like, I'm my own person, but I also love my parents. Mm-hmm. But also sometimes things that my parents do make me angry. Mm-hmm. And so you're figuring out all these very weird emotions for the first time in your life. And you don't know what to do with them.
You don't.
And that's the moment when you need your parents the most because they've been there.
Yeah.
But you don't think you need them. And I think with Kevin's daughter, she is growing up in a very weird space because she's living in a house with someone who's not her mother, but is there for her.
Mm-hmm. And she's a little tomboy.
She is a little tomboy, so she's not like a super girly girl. Mm-hmm. And then she also has her mom, which I'm sure that Torre is an excellent mom. That they co-parent well.
Yeah.
But I do think that maybe from both parties, one way or another, there may be some animosity or something like that.
And then you got to consider she was the oldest.
Yeah.
She was there when her parents were together and when her parents split.
So she's operating on a lot of information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I just had to say that. But I'm not about to give this part of this docuseries. I'm not going to give it a ton of weight because I don't feel like Kevin put enough onus on himself. Mm-hmm. First of all, I needed to know, you skirting around the issue. What were you doing in Vegas?
What happened?
Okay, so what was in the video? Because the video that I heard about, I saw a video, but then I heard about another video. Mm-hmm. I heard about a video where he was going in on this girl sexually.
Yeah.
But the video I saw was him in a car with a girl. Yeah. So I want to know, did you sleep with another woman?
Yes or no?
Did you sleep with another woman? Because cheating, first of all, you cheated when you got in the car with the other woman and entertaining her. Mm-hmm. You were cheating then. But did you go all of the way? And I think he did, but they skirted over that. But then they want us to feel sad for him about the extortion, and I don't care nothing about that, so we're going to move on.
I just wanted to wrap up my thoughts.
I'm sorry, Boo.
But I think I wrote that I feel for Anika because at that time she was pregnant, and she said that I had to keep a level head, almost as if she had to ignore her own feelings because she's like, I'm pregnant. And, if I am stressed out and angry, that's going to affect the baby.
She had to think about that baby inside of her, Bob.
She really had. Because
that's a big thing.
I've never been pregnant, but I know that your body, your emotions can take a very heavy toll on your body. Mm-hmm. And also, I was wondering, the Plastic Cup Boys, they seem like a good group, but I think Kevin really, and I think this is the episode where he gets into it with his trainer.
Okay, hold that thought.
Yeah,
I'm sounding like Kevin.
Hold up, because there's stuff you don't know.
Exactly. Before we get off into the Plastic Cup Boys in the next episode, because he gets into it with Boss, but before we get into that, I will say this regarding the whole Vegas fiasco. Mm-hmm. Eniko was pregnant, okay? Yeah. She's dealing with this, and we know she can carry that stress over to the baby. Yeah. Okay, so after she has the baby, he's back out on the road. And, I just had to have my boys around me, And I'm like, what about her? Like, you had to me, having your boys around you on the road with you, that doesn't give you enough time to stew in your own shit.
Yeah.
He's just back out on the road having fun, and here they go talking about, we had to hold him down. That's our brother. This, that, and the third. I'm just like, all y'all on the tab.
You're on the payroll.
You're on the payroll. You making sure that your money is not affected.
You know what was interesting? And it was something that was almost very quickly skirted by, but it was said, and I caught it. When the whole incident in Vegas was brought up, Wayne, or one of them, said that Kevin posed the trip as like, hey, come fuck with me in Vegas. It didn't seem like a business venture. It was, I'm going to Vegas for pleasure. Come with me. And all of them are married with kids like Kevin, and they're like, I can't just go to Vegas with you.
Yeah, but that was fishy too. Because I'm going to tell you something. That ain't the first time he called them about a doggone Vegas trip.
Oh, no.
And so when they always ask, oh, we got the call that a videotape came out, like they didn't know. I'm like, y'all be on the road a lot. Y'all deal with women a lot. I don't care if y'all married. Y'all just didn't have enough notice this time around.
Yeah.
But this ain't the first time y'all been effing around, because if you think about it, if you go back to Aniko, and she said 3 strikes and you out. Now, as a married woman, I know my husband has cheated on me and the world has saw that.
Yeah.
Why would I say 3 strikes and you out? Because if I say 3 strikes and you out, that means you got 2 more chances to fuck me over. Why would I say that on national TV? I'm telling my husband he got 2 more chances to do me wrong.
Yeah, she said
he done cheated on her before.
No, I know for a fact that I'm like,
he done cheated. This ain't the first time. The way she said it.
She said you only get 2 times,
and then the 3rd time I'm out. So this is his 2nd time,
and the third time you're done.
So she said. Okay, so we'll go on.
We're going into episode 4, and also episode 3. They had that corny little scene when they went into the Versace store.
Yeah, like
and
that
they
was
got
a
the
filler.
shirts.
That was a filler. Like,
so
I can't.
Episode 4,